Hi, this is Steve Coates. Welcome to another episode of Building Scale Models. I'm doing a different video with this, and this is basically a test video really of what I've been working on. I've upgraded my software and trying out something new. What we have here is an old Airfix Vickers Armstrong Wellington B Mark III. This was one of the first models that I worked on when I came back into hobby a couple years ago. And I'm kind of a glutton for punishment. I kind of try to take these old kits and try to make them good as possible. And this is not the best work that I've done so far, but this is one of the early ones I've done. So basically this is what I did on this model to try to make it look as good as possible. So first of all, as you can see here is just a piece here. This is the piece that represents the instrument panel. Right? Basically it's just a flat piece with no detail on it. So I was going to try something new and come up with a way to do a mask by first drawing taking the piece and just taking a marker and draw around it, and then I did take that image and scanned it into my computer and then import that image into my machine that I used to cut mask. Now you can see the cut line here was used as the outline, and I just with simple shapes from the software just put circles and squares and all that, and then when I cut out the mask and I got this. This is just an experiment, and this is the first time I ever tried this. So I put that in, painted it white, and I come up with this. It's crude. It was something that I was trying to do, and this was done in the early days. But you know, it gives a little detail for a very old kit. I think in hindsight later on, if I were to do something like this, I think what I would try to do is, I saw this technique is take a picture of the instrument panel and put it on take the image and cut it off and put it on decal paper. That was something I've seen somebody do with some success. Of course, the pilot's very old molding. In fact, one got mismolded. He's missing a leg, but you know, figured that it's going to be inside the tight cockpit. You're not going to be able to see it. And these are the gunners. Again, very crude. You know, painting. You know, you're not going to see much of the cockpit, but just simple painting. Remember, this is one of the early models I did. Here, what I got in this picture was I found that the canopy that goes in here had some gaps or tended to not line up correctly with this, and so what I did to help fix this problem and also prevent the canopy from slipping in, I added some stock plastic here on the inside, so that I want to put the canopy on here, I have a good surface to glue on, because what happened in the original mold here, you see here, it kind of thinned right here at the edge, so it kind of didn't fit on there correctly. And here I'm test fitting the canopy clear piece, and I noticed a couple things. One, this, you know, you got a ridge here that the piece is lower, where the fuselage here is higher, and also check out this huge gap right here. So if I were to glue this, and you have this huge gap right here, so I'm going to come up with a way to fix that. Also on the side windows, you know, remember this is an old kit. You see the huge gap between the raised window detail here and the cutout hole on the side of the fuselage. And you can see here this huge gap, and I said, well, I need to figure out a way to fix that. So my solution was take thin plastic stock here, thin it down, and glue it right here on the edge all the way around to kind of make it more snug when it fits inside. Other things also, there was no really good alignment holes for the length of the main fuselage. There's one right here, but what I did is with spare stock plastic, add pieces here, and also here contour to help make this model fit easier when I put it together. And here you see the result of that extra thin stock that I placed around the edge of this window. It kind of filled in the gap, and it kind of made this piece fit in more snugly. So after trimming and mask off the windows, I trimmed this, And then I also use Mr. Surfacer 500. It's kind of a thick liquid putty. Put it in there to help seal off the gaps a little bit more. And as you can see, after trimming and sanding a little bit, you can see where some of the details have been sanded away. This is a better fit than it has been before. And here, finally putting the cockpit in with the pilots. Another picture showing during the gluing of the two fuselage halves together. Here, now doing the wings. What's unique about the Wellington is it was known as the basket weave or basket weave, bomber, because what you see in the windows here that you saw before, the inside this frame, it looks like a basket weave. It's just interwoven frames inside. It was a very rigid and very sturdy bomber. But the reason you see the frame is there is actually the frame is inside, and the window here is on the outside. So you actually, on the real planes, you saw the frame of the entire plane inside by the windows here. Here you see now test fitting with a spare, putting some gap filler and some plastic stock to kind of fill in this gap. Also test fitting the window from underneath. You can tell there's some gaps here. It's going to have to be some work done on this one. So here, if you remember the previous picture when I was test fitting and gluing this canopy, there was the fuselage was actually higher than the canopy, but here I am sanding it down and then trying to blend in the canopy with the fuselage with this. If you notice, I've also sanded off a lot of this raised detail, but I'm going to get fixed that here in a minute. Again, some more Mr. Surfacer to help find where I need to fix and the gaps. A little bit better. It's a little bit smoother. Yeah, you can see it's starting to look a little bit better. But you notice a lot of my detail has been sanded away. But this is what I've done to fix it. If you look and notice in this picture, you notice that there's one's totally gone, this is totally gone, and all that. But now you notice that I got a ridge. And what I've done is I take a strip of tape, just put it down this way, and with primer I spray paint against the edge at a 45-degree angle against the tape edge. Basically, I'm making a masking line, or and when you put enough paint down, then when you remove the tape, it leaves a ridge. Now, normally, that's something you don't want to do when you're masking or painting. If you ever done camo of a plane, you put too much tape or too much paint around the mask, it leaves a ridge. Well, I use that fact of leaving a ridge with the tape to kind of rebuild these raised panel lines. Again, more plastic stock here. I found that when I put these two halves together, one side where the front turn is going to be was lower. The plastic was mismolded or misshaped or something like that. So I put a piece of plastic here, stock, thin it out to kind of even it out. Here I'm test fitting the front turn to make sure it looks nice with this stock piece right here. Again, it's a front view. You can see a little bit better. Here, test fitting the rear turret. I drilled out the gun barrels. It's a very very crude looking, but if you mask the turret correctly and all that, it turns into a nice decent little model. Again, test fitting the front turret after it's been masked, painted inside and drill. Now you can see it's starting to look really good. And once again, pictures of the turrets. The other thing is what I did with the engine scoops here. This is used to be just a solid piece, and here I just drilled out several holes and used a knife to kind of cut out the excess and kind of drill out the slots here for the intakes. Same thing here. Once again, fixing the raised panel lines on the side and on the top. Also fixed the raised panel lines that were removed from the sides when I was fixing the windows. And in this picture, this is the Bombay area. Now it's a heavy lines here and all that. That's where the Bombay doors are. But if you noticing on pictures, there was actually cross lines here. You can barely see one right here that existed. And so what I've done is, not only did I fix using that tape with a primer on the painted on the edge, fix the lines going this way, I also did it and put lines of tape this way, spray paint primer on the edge to recreate the cross member lines here. And here once again I can see where here's original panel line, here's ones I recreated, the ones that got sanded away, especially because this is the top of the model where I had to do a lot of fixing the seams and sanding. Another picture of the front, recreating the panel lines on the front. And you can see a better picture with all the panel lines put back on. The other unique thing about the Wellington is that you can see if you look at Wellington, you can see the framing on the wings very distinctly. So what I did was I would paint the models, the black, and then with some very thin tape recreate the pattern and repaint it back over. So what happens is, if this is the underside and it's always black, so I start off with gray, put my tape down to show off the panel lines or the pattern, and then painted it black, and then removed all the tape, and then I painted it black again. So I'm basically recoloring the gray areas, so it's kind of give it a shading, so that what was the original gray primer is now lightly discoloring the black paint. So here's another sample. You can see how that works. What we do in here is similar to the bottom, but what I'm doing here is painted it black first, put the same pattern down, then I put the camo on top of it and remove the tape. So this is the top part of the wing. Now I'm going to go back with the same colors and blend in from the camo here, still leaving some of the highlight black lines under it to show the pattern. And as you can see the patterns here on the wing. And there's a close-up. Using the same technique on the wings, I do the fuselage. So all those panel lines that I had, I recreate the pattern on the fuselage by first painting it black, also, and keep the bottom one gray, paint that black. So I have this version here where I'm going to reblend in these lines. On the bottom part, since this is the black part of the scheme, I'm going to blend in the gray part. So as you can see here, you see the panel lines still are kind of still shaded. And you can see what it looks like now with the wing part in. You still see the panel lines kind of shaded. Here's a better close-up look. So you still see some of the shading from the color here and the shading on the side here. Close-up of the window where we fixed the gap. You can see it looks pretty good. Here I'm starting to add in the using Easy Line, adding the antennas or support wires and other antenna. And I found a picture in a book about all these, how these wires and antenna lines are set up. So I used that as a guide. Added little lights. Basically, I put some glitter and put a little drop of 5-minute epoxy clear to make lenses. There's another one. It's a navigation light on top, making another light here. Adding the wingtip lights. And here's to see the intricate antenna wires that I saw that this Wellington had. Basically, it's just Easy Line, super glued in, nip, put different pattern, nip them on the edges here, and come up with this intricate pattern. Here's a different picture. You can see where everything's connected. Here I'm testing it. The only thing that I regret on this model is I didn't get the dihedral correct on this plane. actually was supposed to happen in my eagerness in trying to get this thing level. I've noticed that my wings are bent up slightly. In the Wellington, the wings are supposed to be straight across, and this is my only regret when I did this model. You can see, you get a better picture of what all this is starting to look. And here's the final result. Overall, looks way better than it had been. You can see the blending of the canopy and so against the fuselage worked out pretty well. The antenna wires look pretty well. The front end, very nice. You know, you have to remember we're dealing with what kind of model we're working with. Another close-up of the front and tail. You can see the shading working on the tail part and on this panel lines here. See the shading of the wings. Here you can really see on the bottom how that shading worked out. Also added, you know, just little silver paints a dot here where representing where some other lights are on the bomber. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave some comments or critiques. Like I said, remember, this is one of the first ones I did a long time ago. So hope you enjoy this video, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you. Bye.